Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to tell you one of my subscribers' scary stories while I play in my world. Before we start, if you want to share your own scary stories, you can send them to my TikTok account linked in the description below. Now, let's get started. The man who told me this story asked me to call him Yusuf. He said the real names don't matter anymore, because most of the people in this story are gone now, one way or another. He said, "Just tell it exactly as it happened. That's all I want." So, let me tell it to you exactly as he told it to me. Yusuf said his family lived in a house his grandfather built with his own hands. 3 floors, one for each of his grandfather's sons. Yusuf's father lived on the ground floor with his wife and children. Yusuf's uncle Rateb lived on the 2nd floor, and the 3rd floor belonged to Yusuf's aunt, a woman named Amina, who never married and never left. "You have to understand something first," Yusuf told me. "In our house, there were 2 kitchens, my mother's kitchen and my aunt Amina's kitchen, and we were never, ever allowed to eat from my aunt's kitchen. Never. My mother told me that from the time I could walk. She said, 'Whatever your aunt offers you, say you already ate.'" Yusuf said he never understood why, not for years. His aunt was kind to his face. She braided his sister's hair. She kept sweets in a tin on her windowsill and called the children up to take 1, sometimes 2, whenever they wanted. But his mother's rule never bent. Not once. "I was 7 years old the first time I understood," Yusuf said. "I was playing on the stairwell between the 2nd and 3rd floor, and I heard my aunt talking to someone in her kitchen. I looked through the gap in the door, and I saw her standing over a pot, and in the pot was something dark, almost black, and she was speaking to it, not singing, not praying, speaking to it, like it could answer her." He ran downstairs and told his mother. His mother didn't scold him for spying. She didn't tell him he'd imagined it. She just sat him down and said one sentence he never forgot. "Your aunt lost the man she loved because of your grandfather, and she has never forgiven this family for it. Stay out of her kitchen." That was all she would say, but it was enough to plant something cold in Yusuf's chest that never fully left him. When Yusuf turned 9, his older brother Tariq began to change. Tariq had been the golden child, top of his class, respected by the neighborhood boys, the one their father bragged about at the mosque. Then, over the course of a single summer, he stopped eating properly. He stopped sleeping. He would wake in the night screaming that something was sitting on his chest, pressing the air out of him, and no one in the room could see anything at all. Their mother took him to 3 different doctors. Each one found nothing wrong. Blood tests, normal. Heart, normal. "Perhaps it's his nerves," one doctor said. "Give him quiet. Give him rest." But rest didn't help. Tariq grew thinner. He began speaking to people who weren't there, arguing with someone standing in the corner of his own bedroom. And one night, Yusuf woke to find his brother standing over his bed, completely still, staring down at him with an expression Yusuf said he still dreams about sometimes. Like he was wearing his own face, but someone else was behind his eyes. Their mother finally brought a religious teacher, a man named Sheikh Anwar, known in the neighborhood for his recitation and his quiet manner. The sheikh sat with Tariq for less than 10 minutes before he looked up at their mother and said the words that changed everything. "Sister, this is not sickness. Someone close to this boy wants him destroyed, and I believe they want more than just him." Sheikh Anwar asked to walk through the house. He walked slowly, room by room, reciting under his breath until he reached the stairwell leading to the 3rd floor. There, he stopped. He said he felt something heavy pulling at him from above, like walking into deep water. He asked whose floor it was. Yusuf's mother told him, "Amina's." The sheikh didn't accuse anyone directly. He was too careful a man for that. But he told the family gently that whatever was harming Tariq had been placed inside the house itself, likely buried or hidden somewhere within its walls, and that it had been there a long time, growing stronger the longer it went undiscovered. He asked permission to search the third floor. Amina refused him at the door. "This is my home," she said. "I won't have a stranger digging through my things because a sick boy had a bad dream." Yusuf's father, Amina's own brother, didn't force the issue. He apologized to his sister and sent the sheikh away with only partial work done. Yusuf remembers his mother's face that night, not angry, but frightened in a way he had never seen before, like she already knew exactly how this would end and was powerless to stop it. While Tariq worsened, a second thread of the story began, this time with their uncle Rateb, the one who lived on the second floor. Rateb was, by every outward account, a successful man. He owned 2 shops in the market and always arrived at family gatherings with gifts, compliments, and a wide, easy smile. But Yusuf said even as a child, something about that smile unsettled him. It never reached his eyes, he told me, not once. Rateb had a son close to Yusuf's age named Bilal, and the 2 boys often quarreled the way cousins do. One afternoon, after a fight over a football, Yusuf shoved Bilal hard enough that the boy split his lip on the pavement. That night, Rateb came downstairs to speak with Yusuf's father. Yusuf listened from the hallway. "Brother," Rateb said, his voice syrup-sweet, "boys will be boys. I'm not angry. Truly, I'm not." And he laughed and patted Yusuf's father on the shoulder and left. But 3 days later, Yusuf's father, a calm, even-tempered man his whole life, struck Yusuf across the face without warning, for nothing at all, over a spilled cup of tea. It was the first time he had ever raised his hand to any of his children. It would not be the last. Over the following weeks, his temper became a stranger living inside their home, flaring without cause, vanishing without apology. Yusuf's mother began locking herself and the children in the bedroom whenever Rateb visited unannounced. She never said his name when she did it, Yusuf told me. She'd just say, "Someone is here. Stay quiet," like there was a storm outside instead of her own brother-in-law. By the time Yusuf turned 11, the household had unraveled into something close to chaos, Tariq wasting away upstairs, their father's temper a loaded gun, small accidents piling up with unnatural frequency, a gas stove that caught fire for no reason, a car that rolled down a hill with the brake fully engaged, a well in the courtyard that ran suddenly dry after generations of water. Their mother, desperate, brought a second sheikh, an older man named H.F.D, from a village 2 hours away, recommended by a cousin who swore by him. H.F.D was different from Sheikh Anwar, quieter, harder to read. He spent an entire day with Tariq, reciting verses, holding the boy's wrists, occasionally murmuring something under his breath that no one else could make out. By evening, Tariq slept for the first time in weeks without waking in terror. Before he left, H.F.D pulled Yusuf's mother aside and told her something Yusuf overheard through the thin wall. "There isn't one hand behind this," the sheikh said. "There are at least 2. One is old, buried, patient, meant to work slowly over years. The other is newer, angrier, meant to work fast. Someone in this house is being used as a doorway for both. You need to find what's hidden, and you need to find it soon, or this will not stop with the boy upstairs." He wouldn't say who. He said he didn't know for certain, only that the doorway was someone the family trusted completely, someone who came and went freely, someone no one would think to search. It was Yusuf's grandmother, his father's mother, a devout old woman who prayed the night prayers standing when her knees allowed it, and sitting when they didn't, who finally acted. She had never trusted Amina, not since the day, decades earlier, that Amina's engagement had collapsed under circumstances no one in the family ever discussed openly. The grandmother had her suspicions for years, quiet ones she kept to herself out of family loyalty, but watching her grandson wither in his bed broke something in her. One afternoon, While Amina was out visiting a neighbor, the grandmother took Yusuf's father by the hand and led him to the courtyard well, the one that had gone dry. "Lower a rope," she told him. "I want to see the bottom." He argued. He said it was pointless, disrespectful, that his sister would be humiliated if word got out they'd searched her property behind her back. His mother didn't raise her voice. She simply said, "Choose, your sister's pride or your son's life." He lowered the rope. What they found near the bottom, wedged into a crack in the stone lining, wrapped in strips of blackened cloth, was a small bundle tied with 13 separate knots. Inside the bundle, a photograph of Tariq from years earlier, torn in half, a lock of hair, and thin iron needles, each one pushed through the photograph at a different point on the boy's pictured body. Yusuf's father sat on the edge of that well and wept like Yusuf had never seen a grown man weep before. They brought H.F.D back immediately. He instructed them not to touch the bundle themselves, not to burn it, not to bury it again, not to throw it in running water as some of the neighborhood women suggested. "Wrong handling makes it worse, not better," he warned. He took it himself, wrapped in cloth soaked in something he wouldn't name, and told them he would deal with it at his own home, away from the family. When Amina returned that evening and found the well opened, the rope still hanging inside it, she didn't ask what had happened. Yusuf remembers this detail specifically. She didn't ask a single question. She simply looked at her brother's face, understood everything at once, and said quietly, "So now you believe the neighbors gossip over your own sister?" "Amina," their father said, his voice breaking, "I found it with my own hands." "You found what someone else put there to destroy me," she snapped. "Have you ever asked yourself who else comes and goes from this house? Who else had reason?" She was, Yusuf said, magnificent in her denial, cold, composed, wounded in exactly the tone of someone genuinely falsely accused. For a moment, even Yusuf's father hesitated, but his mother did not. "Rateb comes and goes too," she said flatly. "But Rateb didn't lose the man he loved to this family 30 years ago. You did." The room went silent. Amina left that night and did not return for 3 days. When Amina did come back, it was with a different face entirely, not soft, not innocent, but tired. The way Yusuf said only a person carrying something heavy for a long time looks tired. She sat with the grandmother alone, and whatever was said in that room, the grandmother never fully repeated it to the rest of the family. But Yusuf's mother, listening from the hallway the way her son had once listened to her, caught fragments. Amina admitted, not proudly, not defiantly, but almost with relief, like setting down a weight she'd carried too long, that yes, she had gone to someone years ago, in her grief and her fury, and paid to have something done, so this family would suffer the way I suffered. She said she had wanted, at first, only to curse the marriage that had been arranged instead of her own. But grief curdles strangely over decades, and by the time Tariq was born, her intention had widened into something uglier. She wanted the whole house to feel what emptiness felt like. But, and this was the detail that made the grandmother go pale, Yusuf said, Amina swore on her own life she had nothing to do with what was happening to their father's temper, or the accidents, or Rateb's strange visits. "That's not mine," she reportedly said. "Something else is in this house too. I felt it before you did." 2 weeks later, it was Bilal, Rateb's own son, 12 years old at the time, who broke the second half of the mystery. Overwhelmed by guilt he was too young to carry alone, he confessed to Yusuf directly, crying, that his father had taken him once to a man in a village outside the city, a man who wrote things on paper and burned hair over candles, and that his father had bragged afterward that "Your uncle won't lift a hand against you again without losing his mind a little more each time." Bilal hadn't understood what it meant. He was a child repeating his father's pride. But Yusuf understood immediately. Rateb had done it out of nothing but petty humiliation, over a scraped lip and a bruised ego, and it had cost his own brother's sanity, piece by piece, for over a year. Yusuf's father did something Yusuf still speaks about with a strange mixture of grief and pride. He called a family meeting, all of them, in the same courtyard where the well stood empty and dry. He did not shout. He did not strike anyone, though Yusuf said everyone in the courtyard braced for it. He simply looked at his sister and his brother, one after the other, and said, "I built nothing in this life that either of you couldn't have shared freely if you'd only asked. Whatever I have has always been open to both of you. Instead, you chose to poison the well that fed my children, and to poison the mind of the man standing in it. I don't understand cruelty like this. I never will." He gave Amina a choice: seek real forgiveness through real repentance, return to God, undo whatever could be undone, and live the rest of her life in this house as family, watched but not exiled, or leave and never return. She chose, after a long silence, to stay. Yusuf said this was the part of the story people found hardest to believe, that his father forgave her, truly forgave her, though he never again let her near the children unsupervised, and that in her final years, she died an old woman, the year Yusuf turned 26. She and Yusuf's mother had grown, unexpectedly, into something close to real friendship, forged in the daily, humbling work of asking and granting forgiveness. Rateb did not get the same grace. He denied everything, even when his own son stood in front of him and repeated what he'd confessed. He called Bilal a liar to his face, in front of the whole family, and Yusuf said that was the moment his father's expression finally hardened past the point of return. "You can lie to me," his father told Rateb. "You cannot make your son lie about what you did to him. Get out of this house, and don't bring your business near mine again." Rateb's shops failed within 2 years, not through any curse or trick, Yusuf was careful to say, but through his own recklessness, once the family's trust and business no longer shielded him from his own bad decisions. He moved to another city. Yusuf saw him only once more in his life, at a funeral, an old man standing alone at the edge of the crowd that no one approached. Tariq recovered slowly, over nearly 2 years, under Sheikh Deeb's continued guidance, and, just as importantly, Yusuf said, under the simple daily medicine of a house that had finally stopped lying to itself. He finished school 2 years behind his classmates, but finished it. He married. He named his first son after their grandmother's late husband, a small private tribute Yusuf said no one in the family ever needed explained. But Yusuf was honest with me about something most storytellers like this leave out. Nothing was ever fully, magically fixed. Tariq struggled with anxiety his whole adult life, something no recitation could fully erase, only ease. Yusuf's father's temper never returned to what it had been before Rateb's interference, but it never returned to what it became during it either. He lived the rest of his years a quieter, more careful man, prone to apologizing quickly when he felt himself slipping, something Yusuf said he respected more than he could have respected a father who was never tested at all. "People want these stories to end with everything perfect," Yusuf told me near the end of our conversation. "It doesn't work that way. It ends with people choosing, every single day afterward, to be better than what was done to them. That's the only ending that's real." Before we finished, I asked Yusuf what he wanted people watching this to understand, if there was one thing. He said, "Envy doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people closest to you, the people who smile the widest at your table. That doesn't mean you stop trusting everyone. That would make you as sick as they were. It means you stay close to God. You keep your prayers. You keep your house honest. And you pay attention when something in your home feels wrong, even if you can't explain why yet." My grandmother didn't have proof for years. She had a feeling, and she was faithful enough, and finally brave enough, to follow it. He paused, then added one more thing before we ended the recording. "And forgive, if you can. Not because they deserve it, because carrying hatred for the rest of your life is its own kind of curse, and you don't need anyone else's help to bind yourself with that one. And that's the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.